Right, another day, another worked math solution. So let's get going once you've grabbed your calculator. Please like and subscribe if you can, always does help. Right. Here's a scatter graph. One of the points is an outlier. Okay, well it's this one, because it's miles away from the others. I'm not really sure what else I can tell you, because these are all kind of in a line, aren't they? So what's the coordinates? Well, it's 2 on the x and 1 on the y. Make sure you always check the coordinates when you do this, because sometimes this might be in 5s and this might be in 2s. So you need to make sure you know what scales your axes are in. Moving on. Ignoring the outlier, describe the relationship between the amount of rainfall and the hours of sunshine. Okay, well it's a negative correlation, isn't it? So we can write that, but you probably want to put a sentence with it. Negative correlation. Sun down, rain up, etc. Okay, you probably want to say the more rain there is, the less sun there is, something like that, but I can't be bothered to say that. On the same day in another English town, there was 7 hours of sunshine. Using the scatter graph, estimate the amount of rainfall on this town in this day. Okay, well that's why you don't scribble all over your graph like I just did. So we're going to get our line, we're going to draw a line. Roughly, I think you should always aim for half up, half below, but my iPad won't let me do that well anyway, so I'm not going to bother that much. It was 7 hours, so let's read that down. That says there's going to be 3 millimetres of rainfall. The front elevation and plan of a solid are shown on the grid. On the grid, draw the side elevation of the solid from the direction of the arrow. Okay, so there's your front elevation, there's your plan. So, what it's going to look like is, well, it's clearly 3 across. It goes up 3. So I'm going to draw this lower. So it's 3 across, up for 3. And then we go up then we go down 1, but we're not going to see that. And then we go up 2 more. So it's going to look something like that. Okay, moving on. Here are the first 5 terms of an arithmetic sequence. Find an expression in terms of n for the nth term of this sequence. Right, well, what do these change by? These change by 6, don't they? So we have 6n, and the first term's 7, so 6, we need to add 1. There we go. The nth term of a different sequence is this. Is minus 58 a term of this sequence? Well, let's set it equal and see if we get an integer number of n. Let's move that over, so we get minus 6n equals... Maths is not being my friend today. 66? 66, yes. Well, it's minus 58, that would be silly. Okay. 8 minus 6n equals minus 58. Move that one over, what do we get? We would get 66 equals 6n, so n equals 11. So yes. Here's a plan of Jason's garden. Jason is going to cover his garden with grass seed. How much? Yeah, okay, so what's the area? And then we need to times it by this, okay? So, what is the area? This question is just hassle, isn't it? So this is 9 and that's 11. And this is 7, okay? So, what's it going to be? Well, it's going to be 9 times 7 plus 11 times 7. And then to do the triangle, that will be 11 times 9 over 2. And then the circle, or the quarter of the circle, will be pi r squared, which is 49 pi over 4. And we add that all together to get total area. So I'm going to type that into our calculator, and what do we get? Make sure you know how to use your calculator, because I always seem to forget how mine works, which really does slow me down. 11 times 7, 11 times 9 over 2, and I've typed it in wrong, plus 49 pi. Where's even the pi button on this thing? See, it saves you time if you just know what you're doing in advance. And that gives me 227.98 something, whatever, I don't care. And each bag of grass seeds covers 14 metres, so we need to divide this by 14 to see how many we are going to need. 16.2, but you can't buy 0.2 of a bag, so he needs 17 bags. And each bag costs that much, so that's 17 times 10.95, which will give us £186 and 15 pence. Nice, moving on. Work out the correct value of x. Okay, well this is a nice simple question. Sokutoa, okay, so this is our hypotenuse and this is our adjacent. Soka, so we're using cos here. Cos 53 equals x over 14.5. So 14.5 times cos 53 will equal our answer. And make sure your calculator's in the right mode. I've just realised mine is in radians from A-level stuff. So yeah, remember it's in degrees because it is the most painful way you will ever lose a mark if you've got it wrong. And I only noticed because my answer ended up negative, and you're not going to have a negative length, are you? So I wanted to 3SF, so that would be 8.73. Ella invests £7,000 for 2 years in an account paying compound interest. Okay, so we do 7,000 times, well, it starts at 3%, so it's that for a year. And then in the second year, it's this. We can't do any squaring because the rate of interest isn't the same, but that's how you calculate it. I hope you all understand that. 7,000 times 1.03 times 1.015. And that will give me 7318.15. Not bad. Here's a graph. Write down the y-intercept. Okay, well, y-intercept, where does it hit the y-axis? So it's actually when x is 0, and that's clearly at 4, isn't it? Write down the coordinates of the turning point. Well, the turning point is here, which is 3 minus 5. Use the graph to find estimates for the root of this. Okay, well, you can do it properly if you panic, but let's do it the way they've asked us to. So, that's 0.5, 0.5, 0.7, call it 0.75. Again, don't give it exact if you are going to use your calculator, but so I'm going to call that 5.25. But it's a good way to try and check if your answer's in the right ballpark if you get confused reading off a graph. Why you do that, I don't know. Chanda buys a necklace, she sells it for this. Work out her percentage profit. So it's your cost over profit is your percentage profit, I'm pretty sure. So that would be equal to 15 over 120. That's going to go nicely, which is nice, which is 1 over 8, which is 12.5%. So obviously you just times this by 100 to get it in percentages. Here are the equations of two straight lines. Oscar says these are parallel. Is Oscar correct? Okay, well let's divide this through and check the coordinates. So that's y equals 3x plus 7 over something. Over 6, but it's irrelevant here. When y is the subject, x same coefficient, therefore parallel. Oscar is right. Nice, moving on. I am sorry, I did say I was going to work on my writing. I has bought a car. It depreciated at this, it depreciated at this. What was it when she bought it? Okay. So it's very similar to what we were doing before. So x times, remember we have to take it off 1 this time. So 0.77 times 0.81 equals 10, 19, 14.75. If you write it like this, you're not going to get confused when you're timesing and dividing them on 1 minus and 1 over, yeah? So I think this is the easiest way to do it. So let's type that into my calculator. 10914.75 divided by 0.81, and we also want to divide it by 0.77. Again, make sure you type that into your calculator right to get x equals 17,500. In an experiment, students complete a puzzle. I don't really care. The context, drawable box plot. Okay, so the least time was 24 seconds. So let's check. So that's going to be 30. This is 24, so let's draw a line at 24. The greatest time taken was 96 seconds. So that's 90, 94, 96. Okay. And then what's the median time? They said there was 60 students. So cumulative frequencies, we take our 30, follow that down. If you draw the lines, ideally with a ruler, it helps show the examiner how you got your work, so it guarantees you more marks. Or, not more marks, it makes it far more likely you're going to get marks though, which is just as good really. So there's our median line. So then we'll have a look at 15 to get our lower, upper, I don't remember which one it would be right now. So that'd be 42. Is it 42? Yeah, it's 42. Is our lower band. And 45, follow this one down, would be 64. And then we join those up, so we've got our nice box plot, and it's happy days. Okay. The number of insects in the population's this, K's got this. How many years does it take for it to double? Okay, fine. So basically, let's think about this for a minute, okay? So we've got P2 equals 1.13 P1, P3 equals 1.13 P2 equals 1.13 squared P1, right? So when this is doubled, it's 1.13 to the n has to be bigger than 2, essentially. That's when it's first going to double. Okay? And initially I'm thinking, well, what are we going to do about that? So just type in some numbers of 1.13 and then you should be fine, okay? 1.13 to the 5 will give me what? 1.84, okay? So that's not enough. To the 6? Yeah, that's 2.08, so it's 1.13 to the 6 equals 2.08. So it's on the 6th. Okay? The value of K actually increases year on year. So it's probably less years than calculated. Because 1.5 to the n is going to go up faster than 1.1 to the n, yeah? A and B are points on a centimetre grid. A is the point with coordinates -7, 6. B is the point with coordinates... You don't need me to read this out to you. Work out the length of AB. Okay, well this is just Pythagoras essentially, okay? So what's the difference in x? And what's the difference in y? We add them together and then we'll square root, okay? So the difference in x is 15, so that's 15 squared. The difference in y is 11 squared. It's 15 squared plus 11 squared, square rooted. Is root 3/4, so we're going to put that into decimal to get to correct one decimal place, 18.6. It's always useful to check what they want. It's probably the most painful way to lose a mark when you're not careful about that. Using algebra, prove this. Okay, well, there's only one repeating digit, the 2, which means we're only needing 10x this time. So if we have x equals on 1 point this recurring. So then 10x equals 10.62. Okay? So then we're going to take off that x. Okay? And what's going to happen? What are we going to get? We're going to get 9x. All of these 2's are going to cancel off, which is lovely. And we will get 9.56. I hope. Yep. So then we get x equals 9.56 over 9 equals 1 over, what, 56 over 900, if you will. And we're going to put that into normal form. And we get 14 over 225 as required. So let's write that down so we get the marks. Nice, moving on. Oh, we're studying populations of rabbits in the park. Okay, so a lot of people struggle with kind of trying to see what they're doing. So it's like, imagine I've got this big bucket full of balls, okay? And then I randomly grab 10 of them and I paint them red. I then shake up the bag, and there's lots and lots in here, okay? And then I pick out these balls. The proportion of the balls I coloured to the balls that are normally there, we know how many reds are in there, so we can take a guess on what the full population is going to be. Yeah? That's kind of the idea behind this. If you don't understand that, if you do enough questions, it'll click. Sorry for my digression anyway. So we know that 12 over 42 should be the same sample as like 20 over x, where x is the total number of rabbits in the park. So we go 20 times 42 divided by 12, which gives x equals 70. I'll be studying population of rabbits in wood. One day he catches... Okay, well, he's just caught 55 rabbits. I hate to say it, but this guy's a bit stupid if he thinks there's 50 rabbits, yet he's caught more. But, you know, we must refrain ourselves. We can't call people stupid on an exam paper. It doesn't sound good. Find the 4 inequalities that define the shaded region. Okay, well, this is a lot of hassle because we've got to find the lines. So this line is reasonable. We can do that line. This line is y equals 6, okay? But except we don't actually want y equals 6. We want y is less than 6, okay? Because it's always this side of the line. It's a solid line, so y is less than or equal to 6. Okay, again, this line, we can do all that. That's a nice line. So that's x equals minus 3, except x has always got to be bigger than minus 3 because we're this side of it. Now for the lines we like a lot less, we have... Okay, what points do we go through here that are nice and easy to work with? We have 4 and minus 6, and we have 2 and 0, which would give me a gradient of... I've put that the wrong way around, sorry, minus 6, 4, which means we've gone 8 across in the x direction, and we've gone 4 down, so that's y equals a half, plus c is going to be 1 here. Isn't it? Yeah. And again, we are looking on this side of it, so y is actually going to need to be bigger than whatever we just stated, okay? So y is bigger than that. And then our final line is this one, where, what points does it go through easily? Okay, well, it goes through 0, 6, and it goes from minus 2, 0. So it's got a gradient of what? Oh, I'm being silly. That's a negative gradient, isn't it? So that's a minus a half. Great catch, gang. As this is 3x plus, what do we run through? 3x plus 6. Y is something 3x plus 6. And then we're going to deal with what side of it is. Okay. Well, here's our line. If our y is bigger than what we expect it's in, and if our y is smaller than what we expect it's not in, okay? That's a good way to always check. So, again, we're looking for y is bigger than or equal to this, okay? Moving on. Here are some solid triangular prisms. Cross-section, all this information. Read what they're looking for. Work out value of h. What is h? The height of the triangle for prism A. Okay? Yep, they've drawn that one for us. How lovely of them. Are these similar shapes? Yeah, they're similar. So we're going to have to do stuff with this and then we can apply it to that, okay? So, if we can work out what this side is, we know the ratio between what length should be on these two because we've got their volumes. Now, volumes are to do with cubes, so we're going to have to cube root these, and then we've got the ratio between the lengths, okay? So we have cube root of 58.86, whatever it is, and then we cube root this. So if we times the length by this, we're taking it from B to A, okay? That's the easiest way to think it, I think, okay? 1587.762. So I'm going to type that into my calculator, and then I've got my lovely conversion of lengths whenever I need it, which I think will be happening reasonably soon. 58.806, and that's going to be to the third. Remember fractional powers if your calculator's not letting you write it in any other way. 1587.762. If you're like me and your handwriting's bad, make sure you refer to the actual numbers in the question. Nothing more painful than doing the right maths but with the wrong numbers and losing all your marks. Okay, which, that drops out lovely as a third, which is fantastic, okay? So that's our ratio, okay? Between lengths, remember, because volumes are cubed, areas are squared, and heights are lengths, okay? So now we've got this, we can now work out that length, which is awesome, okay? So we've got 43.74. Remember, if I imagine this was a rectangle, I can then just divide it through by that to get the height. So I'm going to times that by 2, and then I'm going to divide that by 8.1. And what will that get me? 43.74 times 2 over 8.1, which gives me 54 over 5. I'm now going to times that by the third to take it to the other shape, which gives me 18 over 5. How did they want it? Did they say anything? No, they didn't, so I can just leave it as that, really. I've used all the information they've given me as well, so we're happy. Moving on. Here's a triangle. Work out the area of this triangle. Okay, well, it's just the sine rule. Half sine of C lengths A and B, yeah? So it's the two sines between them, okay? As I said, make sure your calculator's in degrees, and then we go half times 11.2 times 4.3 times sine of 118, which gives us 21.3 to 3SF. Solve this. Okay, well, the coefficient's not easy. I don't want to deal with that, so what we're going to say is quadratic formula. X equals minus 5 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, but there's a minus sign here, so it's plus 4 lots of 36, all over 2a, which is 12. Just type that into my calculator. What do I get? Minus 5 plus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all over 2a, which is 12. So that gives me x equals 2/3, and x equals minus 3 over 2. These 3D geometry questions are my least favourite. There's a lot to go wrong. They're not even worth that many marks on the whole. Okay, 4 marks, it's worth more than I thought. And there's too much to go wrong, not fun. But anyway, we will persevere. So we always start off by marking down what we know. Okay, so we know that A to D is 9 centimetres. Just try to mark that on in a way that's not going to impede you later. F to D is 13. And F to H to G is 49 centimetres. Okay? I've drawn that on, 49 degrees. Sorry, I've drawn that horribly. Work out the size of F to A to H, okay? Well, there's no real easy way to kind of draw that right now, so we're just going to have to picture that in our head, because I think another line would just confuse us more at this point. So, first thing we're going to need is we need FA. FA was easy to calculate here, and it's the side of the triangle we finally want to have a look at, okay? So let's work out A to F. Using Pythagoras, it would be 13 squared minus 9 squared, square rooted. AF, and that is equal to 2 root 22 when you do the maths. Now, what's our next step? We want a second side, so if we can get F to H, then we are in business, because then we have two sides, we know it's a right angle triangle, happy days, we can get this angle, okay? So, how can we do that? Okay, well, if A to D is 9, then B to C is 9, because this is a cuboid, so G to H is also 9, okay? So now we can work out what F to H is. So F to H is, okay, well, SOHCAHTOA, we have the adjacent, so we're using cos. So cos of 49 will be equal to 9 over FH. So FH equals 9 over cos 49. Okay? We've now got two sides of the triangle, okay? So we have this one, we have that one, and we kind of go down like this. This is the angle we're interested in. We're going to call it theta. So again, you can really use whatever you want. You should probably use tan because we've got the opposite and the adjacent. So we know that tan theta will be equal to SOHCAHTOA, opposite over adjacent. So we have FH over FA, which was 2 root 22. And then we'll inverse this, so theta equals inverse tan of FH over 2 root 22. You would want to write out FH, I just haven't here, so I'm sorry about that. But we'll work out, so FH is 9 over cos 49. Make sure you calculate it in degrees, as I've already said, which gives me 13.72. So then you put that in, and what do I get? Wipe it all from my calculator, which is less helpful. Divided by 2 root 22, which gives me 55.6. How did they ask it? To the nearest degree, that's 56 degrees. Moving on. Here's a graph. Calculate the estimate for a gradient of the graph when this. Okay, so we're just drawing a tangent. We've seen this 1,000 times before, we'll see it 1,000 times again. This is honestly quite a nice question. So again, where's 17.5? 17.5 is here. So let's try and get the tangent here, but normally they are reasonably forgiving on this. Remember, it doesn't matter if it only touches there, it just needs to be parallel to it. So if your line touches kind of equally far away on each side to it, you're also happy, okay? But there's my line, I'm happy with it. Most sure how you get your answer, so make sure you've shown your nice line, don't rub it off. Even if you've done it horribly wrong, you might still get a mark for having drawn a line. You know something, so don't do that. So we're going to read off the graph. What do we get? I'm going to call that, that's 6, that's 7. I'm going to call that 7.5. I know it's not really, but it's fine. You guys should be more careful. That's 25. That starts at 0, and that goes up to what? 16, 17, 18. I'm going to call it 18. Not ideal. Please be more careful when you're doing it. But I'm an adult and not sitting the exam, so that will be 18 over 25 minus 7.5. Check our units. Are our units okay? Yeah, I think so. So that's 18, if my calculator will behave itself. 18 over 25 minus 7.5, which gives us 1.02. And what does this represent? Okay, well, we have volume per time. So it's rate of change of volume. Yeah, it's the rate of change of volume. Rate of change whenever they've made you take a gradient is always a great thing to say. It's almost always going to guarantee you the mark. Okay? Moving on. Sometimes I just miss the words. There's not enough words for this question. But, okay, we can do it. So we want to find inverse of h, okay? So let's work out what fg is. So we do g first because it's on the inside, and then we do f. So this means h of x equals f of what we've done to g, so that will be the cube root because that's the f, and then we've just turned the rx into 2x plus 3, so it will look like this. We now change it round, okay? So we now say, well, let's make this x, or let's make this y, and let's make that, that's still x, and let's make x the subject. So we then have y cubed equals 2x plus 3, y cubed minus 3 over 2 equals x, and that's our inverse function, so you've just got to write h to the minus 1 of x equals x cubed minus 3 over 2, and we're done. Easy marks. Here's a race. Bounds, okay, so that's fine. Let's think about this. We're talking about speeds, okay? So speed is distance over time, okay? So our upper bound will be the lowest distance. Will it? No, sorry. Our upper bound will be our biggest distance and our lowest time. And our lower bound will be the lowest distance and the highest time, okay? And then we'll go from there. So let's think, okay, so our 10.6, our lower bound is 10.55 and our upper bound is 10.65. To the nearest second, so it's 31 for 7.5 and 31 for 8.5. And we're probably going to have to convert that fully into seconds, or hours actually, so I've got to be careful about that. Right, let's get to work. So what's our upper bound then? Upper bound is what? Well, our highest distance is 10.65. And our time, this is where we have to be careful. We use our lower time. I'm going to convert it into seconds and then convert it into hours. I think that's probably the easiest way to do it. So that will be 31 times 60 plus 47.5. And that's in seconds. So if I divide it by 60 and then 60 again, that's in hours. So that's 360 or 3600. And we'll do for the same for the lower bound. So the lower bound will be 10.55 over 31 times 60 plus 48.5 over 3600, okay? And now we'll type these into our calculators, and what do we get? Once again, my calculator refuses to behave. Eventually in these videos, I'm going to have to find something to complain about other than my calculator, but we're not there yet, I'm afraid. Sorry for all of you watching this in pain. Of 360. So that gives my upper bound as 20.099606. Sorry if you can hear the thunder, I probably should have shut the window. And the lower bound is, and remember we need all these units, extra units for when we do our rounding, except no we don't in this case, 19.9. When's the first thing they both round to the same thing, okay? Well, that rounds to 19.9, that's going to round to 20.1, so it's not that one, is it? Both of these things will round to 20, though. So they both round to 20, and that is it to a suitable degree of accuracy, because we're looking for when the upper bound rounds to the same thing as the lower bound, essentially. That is our suitable degree of accuracy. Here's a circle. I mean, they haven't even given us the circle. How rude. But it's our final question, so we're going to be brave and do it anyway. A circle has this equation. There's a point on the circle. We want a tangent to the circle. There, okay. Easy. We can do that. So, what do we know about this? This circle goes through the origin. Okay? So, if I can find the line that starts at the origin and goes to 2.1, 2.8, because it's a radius of the circle, it means it will meet our line L at a right angle. So I can get the gradient of L, and then we've got a point of L, and we're happy. Okay? So, the gradient of this line is going to be y over x. It's just y over x because the other x coordinates and y coordinates are both 0. So that's 2.8 over 2.1, which is 4 over 3, which is quite nice. So then our perpendicular gradient is therefore minus 3 over 4, because gradients that are perpendicular times to minus 1. So we have y equals minus 3 over 4 x plus c. We then need to sub in our 2.8 and 2.1. What do we get? 2.8 equals minus 3 over 4, lots of 2.1. It's that way around, isn't it? Yep, plus c. And so sub that into my calculator. What does that give me? 2.8 plus 3 over 4, lots of 2.1. And I didn't put it in brackets, so my calculator's having a hissy fit. So be careful about that. I got 35 over 8 equals c. Are we done at this point? No, we are not. Because that's not the form that it asked for it in, did it? What's the form they asked for it? ax plus by equals c. So let's do what they asked, shall we? So we have 4y plus 3x, because I've times everything up by 4 and then brought that over, which gets rid of the minus sign. So if I times this up by 4, I'm going to have 35 over 2. And they said integers, so we're not done there. It's actually 8y plus 6x equals 35. And we're done. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.